Hey, welcome back. Okay, so it's saying that, all three of the subs are going to try to detect him. A roll of a 1 will succeed. And we use that table. So we make one roll for each sub, and it says in this case it's a 1d4, 6, or 8, depending on the naval patrol box being detected. So this is the part that has me confused. Oh, I get it. Red numbers are against subs. The gray numbers are against naval fleets. So since we're in the coastal, we're going to get to roll d4s to detect that battle fleet. So battle fleets, I guess, being easier to detect, of course. So we're going to get to roll 3. And the rules do say that, like, if there was multiple naval fleets, you have to point to which one you're trying to detect. So we don't have choices here, right? We're all going to try to detect the battle fleet. But just for your reference, if there was more than one surface group there, you have to declare who you're trying to detect. And each sub can try to detect a different one. So you can do them one at a time. You don't have to declare them all ahead of time and then roll, okay? But we're all going to go for the battle group, of course. So let's roll, and I got a 3, and there it is. I got a 1, okay? And then this was a 4. So one of the subs did detect it. Now, it does say that since nobody has been sunk on either side, we have to do a rules of engagement check. So it says, conduct one rule of engagement roll for each naval patrol box that is the location of an attack. Roll 1d10 and compare it to the number of the current sitrep card. If the result is less than or equal to the sitrep number, then the attack has been authorized. Our sitrep number, as you know, is 2. So we would have to roll a perfect 1, or otherwise we're not allowed to attack. And there is this thing here. So in a coastal zone, it's 1d10 less than the sitrep level. But if they're in a search zone, we get to subtract 2 from our roll, which is very interesting. So that means we actually have more leeway to attack if they go out into the search zone. If it's the exclusion zone, you don't even need to check. You just get to pummel them. Now, oh yes, I forgot to mention, when you do these rolls, a 10 is always no, even if a 10 would be less than the sitrep number. A 1, so yeah, and this is true for when the Argentinians are rolling to see if they detected you. And a 1 is an automatic yes. So there is no such thing as it's impossible. You don't even have to roll. You always at least roll, because if you get a 1, then they detected you. Or in this case, we're going to be authorized no matter what on a 1. But the sitrep card's going to let us be authorized anyways. Okay. It says that if any vessels have been sunk, confirmation is no longer required and the shooting war is started in earnest. Also remember that regardless of any modifier, a roll of a 10 always means the attack is not authorized. Sorry, I'm just reading some more stuff here. And then, yes, if something's authorized, we get to continue. So it's a simple D10 roll, and then we're done. Oh, that's a D12, sorry. My D&D days still don't have me identifying these as quickly as I should. And I rolled a 4. Okay, so that's much greater than 2. And remember, I said I had to roll a perfect 1. So nothing happened here. So I'm just checking. I don't think we flipped to 180 degrees or anything like that, because there was no actual battle. So even though that surface group was there, nothing actually happens. And if the attack is unsuccessful, we control the chart, but we didn't actually try to attack. Okay, so all right, let's go back to our sequence of play. I think we're done with that step. So next is Argentine surface group versus British submarine. Okay, so now they're going to try to go after our sub. And we conduct a Argentine surface group search roll. And I don't know why it's red, but so let's read this real quick. It says, they now attempt to detect and engage British subs in a similar way. Look to see which naval patrol boxes contain both. They're contested for each Argentine task group counter in a tested group box. Roll 1 die per the chart. And you got to use the red number because they're trying to detect a sub. For every one, then they go into the combat box, just like before. So there's nothing crazy coming out here. So let's go and look at the combat table. So here you can see this is the combat fleet, right? It's a 79.3. Okay, that's the combat fleet. This would be the carrier fleet, of course, and then the patrol fleet. So the combat fleet in the coastal trying to detect a sub is a D6. So that's what we would roll. So let's do that. And I rolled a 4. So they didn't detect us. So I believe we're going to get to skip all this. All Argentine task groups in a contested naval box are immediately placed off board. Oh my gosh, they're placed off board. Okay, so he doesn't go back into the war box. He goes off board. So very interesting. So now that makes no. I thought that was the opposite of what we read earlier. Yeah, it just says that they adopt a conservative strategy. It says after in a contested naval patrol box are immediately placed off board. They adopted a conservative strategy. After defending themselves from patrolling British submarines, Argentine Navy prepares to go on the offensive and attack the bulk of the British fleet. So how can they do that if they always get placed off board? That's what I don't understand. This is a conflict of rule here. Argentine task groups or submarines currently occupying will attempt to. I guess that would be only to be the case if they destroyed us and it was no longer contested. That's what it means. So we would only end up here if they somehow got rid of they're no longer in a contested box. So then they can go after our task force. So we're going to skip all of that, of course, because he went all the way off the board. Okay, that makes sense. So we're skipping all this. So now we got to do the scramble roll. And remember that the scramble roll is going to be pretty bad. They have to basically roll 1 because this is a level 2. So they have to get less than or equal to that error alert assessment. So we're going to roll our D10. I rolled a 3. So there's no scramble. So again, we're skipping a bazillion things. And let me just look real quick. There's no scramble. There's no Air Force targeting or surveillance. There's no air-to-air combat, surface-to-air. Yep, we go all the way down. It's end of turn again. Okay, so Harrier recovery, but as you know, I have yet to launch one. I've been keeping them fresh and fit. You know, I guess I probably could afford to launch one, but that's okay. And so we're moving on to the next, yes, we're gonna go on to the next turn. All right, so we gotta do a weather check. So I think the weather check was 2d6. And I rolled a 6 again, so without even looking at the tape, we've rolled that 3 times in a row now. So weather doesn't impact us. We're gonna draw an event card, and we get number 2 here. We have had an approach from the Peruvian ambassador. Okay, whatever that's gonna mean. So let's go. Go to mission 2 here. Okay. If this card is drawn on turn 1, discard it and draw another. That's not the case. The United Nations, in support of a peace proposal tabled by the Peruvian government, has called for a temporary cessation of hostilities and a 24-hour ceasefire. We can A, accept it. It comes into effect for 1 turn. International opinion rises by 1, which is really great because if our international opinion is dropping, we can bring it up. But we're already at max level. If the domestic opinion is currently 4 or less, it also rises by 1. They welcome the search for a peaceful resolution. However, if domestic opinion is currently 8 or more, it will fall by 1 because they're in no mood to compromise. Oh, this sucks. Or we can reject it, and then the international opinion falls by 1. And if the domestic opinion is less than 5, it also falls by 1. Okay, so at the moment, I mean, we lose the game if the domestic opinion drops to 0. We lose all these nifty things if the international opinion drops. I didn't see anything in the rules that says I think if the international opinion goes back up, these things might turn back on. Once you lose them. It doesn't say that, or at least I never saw anywhere where it does, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. So basically I have to, if I reject it, the international is going to go down by 1. If I accept it, the domestic goes down by 1. I'm going to let the domestic drop by 1. I don't know if that's the best move or not, but my logic being that the international has consequences the moment I get to 8, whereas domestic only hurts me if I get to 0. So obviously there's a lot of checks that if it's 4 or less, then things happen to you. But now this ceasefire doesn't seem to actually affect the game. So I guess we can still shoot at each other and all that other stuff. It's just a weird political thing. So, okay, that event's done. Now the sit rep is going away. And let's draw our next sit rep. We're on to 3. Okay, so it just went up by a level. It's still Trilu, so we're going to put our SAS team there still. And it's still going to be just 1 raid if they were to come after us. Okay, so what's next? Task Force. We're going to leave everything the way it is. I have to decide if I'm going to do a cap placement. And I think I'm going to do what I told you I would do. I'm going to go ahead and just launch 1 Harrier for cap. And I'm going to put it over our carrier group and task force, you know, basically protect our juicy targets, just in case. And I don't know if that's going to be super helpful, but I don't think 1 is going to hurt us. I really don't. So I'm okay with that. Technically speaking, when that battle group was out, I should have moved ships into defense zone 10, because if that battleship would have made it here in this zone, he would have had a free shot at us, you know, to go after our task force. And that number 10 there is important for protecting against him. But anyways, it didn't hurt us. Okay, next is There's no reinforcements or anything crazy like that. British submarine placement, and we did cap and SAS. Supply interdiction doesn't happen until turn 4, if I remember correctly. We do have to start remembering that soon. I'm going to keep the subs just like they are, because the naval surface fleet, the best they can do is just go into port this turn. Okay, so there's 2 subs available to come out. So this is for the first one. 3, oh, there we go, we got a 1. So 1 sub's coming out. And it's going to be coastal. Now we're going to roll for the next sub. Oh my gosh, there's 2 1s right there. The sub is it made it to the search zone, and it's gonna be able to go after us. Woo! All right, well, we'll see how that plays out. Okay, now we gotta roll for the ships. So a D4, a D6, and I think it's a D8. No 1s, so none of them are coming out. Okay, and let's see, what else? Submarine versus submarine. So we're gonna go ahead and do a search roll. And our subs are searching on a 6. So I'm just gonna go ahead and roll 3. And I detected nothing. Okay, so that's done. Then the Argentine submarine is going to do a search. And so I'm checking his table. He's rolling a D8. This one. And he doesn't detect us. So we skip. So we are skipping British submarine versus surface group. Argentine surface group versus British submarine. Argentine Navy versus task force. So I think we have to do this now because that submarine made it through, right? This particular submarine is going back in the ready for war box because that was a contested zone. But this one is going to be able to go after us. So we're going to hit a new section of rules here. Section 13.8. Okay, yeah. After defending themselves from British submarines, the Argentine Navy is going on the offensive, and that's including his little submarine there. Argentine task force submarines currently occupying a naval patrol box will attempt to detect. The detection is abstracted and effectively involves the units transitioning from their current location undetected to engage the task force close to the islands. To detect the task force, each Argentine submarine currently at sea rolls once in the appropriate detection box on the combat chart, cross-referencing naval group or submarine with the gray number instead. Okay, so fair enough. If the roll is successful, the Argentine vessel goes into combat display. The Royal Naval vessels to be targeted will be identified in a moment. Okay, so let's just see if they can see us. So it is a submarine, Argentinian sub. He's in the search box, this one here, and he's trying to detect a gray. So he's going to roll a D8. And it's the same deal. He's got to get a 1. So I rolled a 3, so we're skipping the rest. So now I'm just going to check to see if he goes home, or does he stay there. So give me a second while I look for... If no rolls... Okay. So, this is worth pointing out. Number 2 there, they're trying to detect us. They need to roll a 1, okay? But if you look at number 3 here, the British units get to try to detect them using ASW. Obviously, the Harriers can't do anything, but all the British ships can try to, but only if they're in the defense zone. That's that zone 10, right? So if I had ships in zone 10, they could try to detect the submarine that's in the search box. And so after that submarine tried to get us, we can try to get it. And then so we roll a 1d6, and if we get a 1 or a 2, the Argentine submarine or task force has been detected. And they immediately call off their attack and go to the war box, okay? If there's no rolls of 1 or 2 are made, they successfully evaded, and every Argentine unit that has evaded now conducts an engagement roll of 1d12 and place the unit in a matching task force zone. If the engagement roll indicates task force zone that this, hold on. If they didn't detect us, why would they be doing an engagement roll? So why would they be doing an engagement roll? They wouldn't know where we were. So why do they do the detect task force here? If the roll is successful, blah, 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 but the roll was not successful. Then it says now for each British unit currently I'm thinking we just skip all this. For each Argentine that is evaded now conducts an engagement roll. And yeah, if they roll a zone that we don't have any defense, they go immediately to 12. If the roll's a 1, they also attack the central. If the detecting task group is the carrier group, there is no engagement roll. Example, both Argentine submarines have maneuvered into position. Quite worrying situation. The task force defense zone is currently patrolled by 2 Harriers on cap, 2 Type 42s and a Leander. You roll 3d6 for the first Argentine submarine, 1 for each warship, but not the patrolling Sea Harriers, resulting in a 3, 5, and a 6. As no results of a 1 or a 2 have been made, the submarine has evaded the Royal Navy vessels. You now roll. Here, let's go back to the. Yeah, see, that maneuvered into position thing means they detected you. They would be on the combat display. They're not on the combat display. So yeah, we skip all this. Yeah, we skip all this. So you now roll again for the second sub. He's been detected and removed to the ready war box. Finally, you roll a 1d6 for the battle group. You get 5 rolls, including the 2 Sea Harriers. And it's detected and removed. Yeah. Okay, that's just the example they're giving us. So we don't go any further. I don't think, though, that the submarine retreats. I think it stays there in the search box. So there's nothing to indicate that it leaves. It's just that he couldn't detect us. He wasn't able to detect us, but we didn't detect him either. So he just stays there. And yeah, I need to, skedaddle. That's the part that's weird about this. It doesn't say. This is like the one weird example that he didn't cover very clearly in the rule book. Yeah, we're going to leave him in the search box because it doesn't say that he goes home unless it's a contested box. Okay, so what's next? Yeah, now we got to see if they're launching. Scramble. Okay, so Scramble is a D10. I rolled a 4. The level is a 3, so they still don't scramble. Okay, so we move to the end of the round, and the one Harrier that was on cap is going to go into the flown box. Since he came from this carrier, he's going to be in the blue box. And then he will move over to here. And then at the end of the next turn, he'll be back and ready. Okay? All right. So this is a really interesting game. The dice rolls and stuff are interesting. This is almost like, like a Picket Duty style game where you're, or a Night Fighter Ace where you're just rolling and checking tables to see what happens to you. But I think the one thing I appreciate about this designer is it just feels very thematic because, you are reading, about how they're politically trying to, disengage. I do think my reaction so far is that, yeah, nobody's sinking each other yet. We haven't even really, well, we did attempt to sink one of their subs, but we missed. But the thing that's cool about this is, I can feel this thing just heating up, right? And I don't know my history very well about the Falkland War. I think it was one of those things where Britain got a little bit humiliated, if I remember correctly. But the thing about it, though, is that you can sort of see how there's this little cat and mouse going on. And I think this game captured it really well. Yeah, we're doing a lot of table checks and then nothing happens. I could also easily see somebody looking at this and saying, boy, this is not for me. I mean, when have I even made decisions, right, that are meaningful? Well, I will tell you, there are a few. I mean, obviously, where my subs go was meaningful, and then where my ships are going there is meaningful, even though not much has happened yet. Had I put some of my ships in the defense zone, I could have possibly intercepted this sub and done some damage. That's my only choices so far. Where do I put my SAS marker is a choice, but so far it hasn't been a choice because the sit rep is pretty straightforward, right? It's just coming out of Trelo. So there's a few, I mean, this game is just slowly building up. It's really nice for a person like me who's learning it. But yeah, in the same vein though, it's this can get a lot of criticism about how many choices you really get to make. And that's fine. I'm one of those people that I don't mind a table lookup game. I do have Picket Duty and I haven't played it yet. I actually started reading the rules and I fell asleep because the rules are there, but I just don't like how jam-packed they are. They don't have a lot of player aids at all. Anyways, I don't mean to pick on another game, but when there's a lot of chart lookups, I love the fact that this one has a sequence of play, right? This helps me immensely to know what I need to do, whereas Picket Duty doesn't have anything like that. It's very, in fact, a lot of the tables are actually in the rule book, sort of like the way that weather table is. And I have nothing but criticism for when people do that. But anyways, back to this game. I'm not going to tell you this is the greatest game ever, but I am enjoying this so far. You got to be in the right mood. But I am enjoying it. And I'm going to do a little plug. Speaking of enjoying a game, Thunderstone Quest arrived. So I really want to play that one, but I promised one of the viewers that I would get back to wargaming because he was Tired of me doing Euro games. You know who you are. And anyways, here we are. We're going to do this. I promised him I would do this one. And I do like to try to live up to those as much as I can. So, and I'm having fun. So I'm not complaining that much. But I do want to try Thunderstone Quest. I haven't had a chance to. I did look on YouTube, and I thought for sure somebody would have done videos on this. And they have. But they all did it with prototypes and print and play. One Stop Co-op Shop I know did, and I know this one other guy did as well. But both of them used the print and play, which didn't have the final rules. So there is, at this point, nobody who's doing the Barricades mode of Thunderstone Quest with the actual Barricades mode components and rulebook. So there is an opportunity there, and I'll probably get something in. Okay, back to this game. We are moving on to turn 4. So we know this game's going to heat up because the sit rep number is just going to get higher. And so at some point, something's going to blow. Okay, so weather check. I rolled a 5. That might be different. Already annoyed that this weather chart is buried in the rule book. A 5 is still no effect. So weather has not caused a problem yet in this game. And here's our event. While the Cat's Away, 33. I'm not good with my flags, but isn't that Ireland? I think it might be. So that means there's going to be trouble at home. 33. If this is turn 18 or after, discard and draw another. Intelligence reports that the IRA are preparing to use the Falklands conflict as an opportunity to launch a major offensive in South Armagh. Yes, that is Ireland. You may A, do nothing. On the morning of May 21st, 3 British observation posts, a barracks and 2 police stations in Northern Ireland are stormed and overrun by 200 heavily armed IRA volunteers. The IRA declares Free Armagh a no-go area for British forces. Public opinion in Britain is stunned by this new military reversal. Domestic opinion falls by 2. Or, we can send reinforcements. Take one of the parachute regiments and remove them permanently from the game. If the unit is not being transported by QE2 or Canberra, also remove its parent troop ship permanently from the game. Ooh. Okay, so we got to check to see where our paratroopers are. Okay, QE2 and Canberra are these 2 ships. Okay, so the paratroopers, this is Commando, Marines, Gurkha, Commando, Air Brigade. There we go. Those are the 2 paratroopers there. And then we got some infantry. So in order to avoid this, we can remove a paratrooper from the game. They both have a strength of 8, which seems to be pretty powerful. But I'll go ahead and get rid of the second paratrooper and remove them from the game. My logic there is these don't come out until May 23rd anyways, so again, I still don't understand the strategy of this, or even if I did it right. It's the most nebulous part of the game so far, but for now, it's out. And what it was saying is if that paratrooper, let's say, was on this ship, the Nordic Ferry, I would have to find it in the reinforcements here. There's a Nordic Ferry, and then I would have to actually just remove the transport from the game. So that would have been quite awful as well. It did say, here, I'll let you read it, because load the 10 British units onto their troop transports by placing unit counters onto each of the 10 onboard boxes above the San Carlos display. They should be placed on their front full-strength side as denoted. Note, the Blues and Royals counter may not be placed on QE2 or Canberra. It says load the 10 British units. Okay, you tell me. This is way more than 10. So which one are the 10 British units? I don't see that. Or is there somehow, like some of these are Argentinian units? That's the only thing that's jumping out at me is perhaps some of these are from the Argentine, but how would I know? What's British versus what's not British? I mean, the Blues and Royals is clearly British, but what about this is different than any other one? I mean, these ones have this little asterisk on them. Are those the non-British? Right? So I would have to take those off. That would make a lot more sense, wouldn't it? Here, let's do that. So if I took this off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's count what's left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's still way more than 10 units on this board. Yeah, I don't have an answer for this. It seems to me there should be one British unit on each one of these squares. And as you can see, I have way more than one. So by taking away that British paratrooper, I would only have two units left on this ship. So I really think I'm doing something wrong. And I'm going to go ahead and stop real quick and research this, because I don't want to continue the game until I get this figured out, because this particular choice is going to matter. You know, I don't mind losing one troop because look at how many more I have on here. But there's a part of me that's thinking, so criticism about this game. There is no section in the rulebook that explains to you the component overview. So you're just left to guess. Now, I did just realize that maybe this is like Code Word Cromwell, where the end of, yeah. See, look, at the end of this book is a description of each ship. So give me a second. I'm going to go, I think some of these might be Argentinian troops. And let me see if I can figure this out. And if I can, my theory is I'm only supposed to have 10 British troops here. And so let me figure that out, and then I will come back and we will make a decision on how to handle this event. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome.